Hello, my name is Lano, and you're listening to Lano's Corner, where I talk about something for half an hour or so, unscripted and usually from memory. This month is special because it's my birth month. I'll be turning 30 soon, which I think is pretty cool. And because it's special, I wanted to be as on brand as possible, as on my bullshit as possible. So I'm doing my 10 favorite deaths in anime and manga. Now, I almost reconsidered this idea after trying it a few times because, as of recording this right now, the last few days have been pretty rough for me, but I'm pretty sure I was born with clinical depression, and the only thing I know how to do is keep moving forward, so here we are. Now, anybody who knows me can tell you that I love things that make me cry, but it's actually not that easy to make me cry. So most of the deaths on this list are here for story purposes. I don't have an issue when characters die in stories, probably because I grew up reading stuff like Redwall and being really into Fire Emblem and Valdemar and other things like that. I just don't want characters to die for no reason. So if there's a really satisfying character death, I will probably love it. And some of them are here because they're beautiful tragedies, and I love tragedies, and some of them are here because they legitimately make me sad. So it's kind of hard to put these in like an objective order because they're all here for different reasons, but I did my best. So just understand that like all 10 of these are good in very specific ways, and I'm not necessarily ranking them in any kind of order, but I have to put them in some kind of order for this video to work. So it's sort of like least effective to most effective, vaguely, only vaguely. And with that, I think I've dallied long enough. So, number 10 is my only manga exclusive death on here, and it's Eren from Prince Freya, which I love, and it's pretty new. Nobody talks about it except for me. I've talked about it a few times, but like, I love this kind of stuff. Arslan Senki and 12 Kingdoms are some of my favorite anime slash manga slash whatever out there, so I was really excited to find something else that's of a similar genre. It's more similar to Arslan Senki than anything else, but I was just kind of expecting to like mildly enjoy it, you know, because I'm a sucker for a fantasy political war drama. And Eren's death changed everything. I did not see it coming at all. I really just I was not expecting any of the like main characters that we'd been introduced to die, and it completely changed the tone of the story, and that was the moment that I knew that I was going to love this manga. I got so obsessed with it, right? I read it all, like everything that was available I read in a single day, and then I ordered it, and then I read what had not been available online. And Eren's death was the thing that really yeah, this is gonna be good. So if you also like that kind of stuff, I would suggest checking it out. It's been a lot of fun so far. I'm currently dying because I pre-ordered the fourth volume, which came out in January 5th, and my order still hasn't shipped yet as of February 8th. So I'm suffering. I gotta know what happens. It's really, really good. And Eren's death is very good as well. Like, he doesn't, I don't know, he's not actually in it all that long. I think he dies towards the end of the first volume, but it was just such a shock. I found it very effective. And I'm actually like, I'm really glad that he died because it's led to a lot of like interesting character development for Freya. And I really hope there's some things that I have high hopes for this series. It's still so new, but I really want to see some of these problems that she's struggling with that have come to the forefront because of his death. I really want to see that stuff explored in greater detail. So yeah, it's a good death. It's very promising, and definitely I was happy to see like get into a new manga that really resonated with me, and that made the whole thing possible. Thank you, Eren, for dying. Number 9 is Rengoku from Demon Slayer. I haven't watched the anime yet, but I read the manga and I really enjoyed it. And Rengoku was my favorite character, but I can't say I was surprised by his death. I knew it was coming. It was like the second he showed up, I was like, I love you and you're going to die. Like, I guess a lot of characters like this, of this personality type in anime and manga, die. So, I mean, at a certain point, you can't be surprised anymore. But I do think his death is very, very, very effective. Like, first of all, it's just a good death because he's such a positive, heroic, larger than life figure, and everybody really looks up to him. And he gives it his best shot. Everything he does to his fullest potential. And when he dies, he saves a lot of people, and he also has time to give his last words to the kiddos. And then he has his little vision of his mom telling him that he did a good job, and so he gets to die like satisfied. And that's just very sweet. But I also think that, like, if I remember correctly, he's the first of the pillars to die. And he doesn't even manage to take the demon with him. Like, he can't even take that guy out. So it's a really good moment for the main characters, which are the younger demon slayers, to realize that, like, this is a war. It is dangerous. You could very well die. Like, this is what upper level demons are like. This is what you're up against. And I think that is so fantastic. And, like, he motivates them so much to, like, keep going and be stronger and, like, live up to what he saw of their potential. I really love it for, like, a story perspective, a character perspective. I do miss him, but it doesn't actually make me sad at all because I think it's handled, like, perfectly. Number 8 is Leafy from Leafy, A Hen into the Wild. Now, generally, I don't like to lump anime and animated movies together. I like to think of, like, movies and shows as being separate things, but I couldn't not include this. I don't know if people still talk about this. This was big, I think, when I was in college, and there's a lot of people joking about it being like the Bishi Duck movie, and it is kind of funny, but it's a legitimately good movie, and it's a great tragedy. And if you like tragedies, you should find and watch this movie. It did make me cry. So the whole thing is, like, Leafy being a hen who escapes from an egg farm, and she falls in love with this duck, but he and his mate both die. I think they're killed by the weasel. I don't remember 100%. But she takes over their nest and raises their son, and then they have their whole, like, family bonding thing, their life together. And then when he's old enough to go off with the other ducks and find his place in the world, he just leaves, and Leafy is kind of old and not doing well, and she basically willingly gives up her life to the weasel, who also has babies. Like, the weasel also has children it needs to feed and take care of, and it's just this really beautiful, like, circle of life kind of moment. And the fact that she's facing this, like, horrible death at the fangs of this predator, and it's so, like, peaceful at the same time. It's so beautiful. Like, it's just really beautiful. This movie is beautiful. It's a great tragedy. I liked it a lot. I haven't been able to watch it since the first time I watched it. I do kind of want to watch it again now. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie, and I don't really see people talk about it anymore, which is kind of a shame. But if you are interested in tragedies and just very strange animated movies, but very beautiful movies, then check that one out, because I remember it being really good. And it definitely had, like, an impact on me. Number 7 is Shorter from Banana Fish. And you might be thinking, like, Lano, shouldn't it be Ash? And the answer is no, because, like, look, I love Ash's death. I think Banana Fish is one of the greatest tragedies, like, just the best tragedies in manga. And, like, I think Ash's death is perfect, and it's amazing. And if you have only watched the anime and you haven't read the manga and you haven't experienced the epilogue, please read the epilogue. It changes everything. It's so bittersweet, and I love it so much. It's just like this, like, chef's kiss, perfect bittersweet tragedy ending, and I don't know, I love it so much. Yeah, so like I love Ash's death, and I could talk about Ash a lot and Banana Fish a lot, but I actually wanted to talk about Shorter for this video. So, like, when you get into something like Banana Fish, you realize very early on that pretty much everybody's gonna die. It's that kind of show. So, most of it doesn't have as much of an impact because it's just like, okay, the entire cast is basically gonna end up dead. But I really liked Shorter. I thought he was so happy and positive, and he was one of my favorite characters, and just like the whole setup around his death, the way that it was orchestrated, because it was planned like this, and just, Ash being chained up in this room, forced to watch as like Shorter, who's been brainwashed, is trying to murder AG, and Ash being told, like, you have a gun with one bullet, which one are you gonna choose? And Ash's screams, like, kind of snapping Shorter out of it enough for him to ask Ash to kill him because he can't live like this anymore. And Ash does. He shoots Shorter through the heart, like, forced to choose between the two most important people in the world to him. Like, awful. And even though Shorter asked Ash to kill him, there's no, like, relief. He doesn't have a peaceful death. There's no little smile on his face or anything. He just looks like shocked and distraught. And I think it's just a great scene. It's absolutely horrible. Banana Fish is so messed up, and I love it so much. Definitely not for the faint of heart, but like, it is one of my favorite manga. The anime is fine, but like, in my opinion, the anime does not, it's just not as good as the manga. So I'm so mad that they did not animate the epilogue. Why would you deny us that? Why? But yeah, anyway, I like Shorter a lot. I like his death. It's definitely horrible. There's a lot of other characters whose deaths and stuff, like slightly less important characters or middling important characters, but their deaths seem a lot more natural. Like, oh, this is just kind of a gang war or whatever. There's a shootout and people get shot. But like Shorter's death was very carefully orchestrated, and I think that's absolutely horrible, but also it's kind of amazing. Number 6 is Euphemia from Code Geass. I love Code Geass. It's one of my favorite animes. I've watched it probably, 6 or 7 times at least. But the funny thing is, I've never seen the second season. I've owned it for years and never gotten around to watching it. A few years ago, one of my roommates and I started a rewatch with the intention of watching both, but at the end of the first season, she was so emotionally distraught that she had to take a break, and like we never got back to it, and then she moved out. So it's like, okay. So I still haven't seen the second season. It's entirely possible that there's some really good shit in the second season, but like, oh man, I love Euphemia a lot. I don't play a lot of video games, but like, when I do, the first time I always use Lano as my username, and then the second time, if I play something again, I always use Euphy or Euphemia because of her. So like, I love her a lot as a character, and I think her death is just perfect. It's so good. Clovis's death is also good, but like, they do such a good job of bringing our hopes up for Euphemia. She's a really good person. She really wants to make a difference. She wants to make the world better. And just the sheer bad luck of Lelouch's Geass kicking into full-time mode at that exact second, and then he has to go out and put her down like a rabid dog, and like even at the end she doesn't understand what's happening or what she's doing or like how it's come to be this way. And just that line that he says, like, you may have been the first girl I ever loved. Classic. Absolutely classic. I love Euphemia's death so much. And it is really just the, like, from a story perspective, but also from an emotional roller coaster. Like, oh, they work so hard to get our hopes up and make us really care about her, even though she's not in it very much. Like, she hasn't been in it for very long. And then just this, like, absolutely heartbreaking conclusion as Lelouch is forced to kill like one of his favorite siblings. I love it. I love it a lot. I think it's very good. I think it's very, very good. Number 5 is Haku and Zabuza from Naruto. Now, I will confess, Although I was at the perfect age to watch Naruto when it was airing originally, I thought it was lame and I didn't watch it. And then a few years ago, I started watching it with one of my roommates, and I had no idea that Naruto was basically like pure serotonin. It was amazing. The winter before I got put on antidepressants was really, really, really rough for me, and Naruto was basically the only thing that got me through it. But despite how amazing it is, and I can also confess that we haven't finished it yet, we're very slow at watching anime. We watch a little bit. We either do nothing but watch anime or we don't watch anime for months. That's kind of how it goes. So we watched a bunch of it and then we stopped, and we'll get back to it someday. But despite everything I've seen and all of the arcs and characters that I really like, because Naruto's really good, way better than I would have thought as a kid. Although the stuff that I love about it now wouldn't have mattered to me as a kid. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't watch it until I was an adult. But like, the first arc of Naruto is so good. It's like the definitive arc for me. Nothing has come close to this because I love Haku and Zabuza so much. I'm just a sucker for this, having two people who are like so devoted to each other, but they're denying themselves at the same time, just like lying to themselves. And the fact that you have these antagonists, but they're given a lot of development, relatively speaking, for antagonists who are in a single arc of the story and then die. You get to know them pretty well and their history together. And Zabuza's like, oh man, that ninjas aren't supposed to have emotions, but even I couldn't live up to that ideal, and all I want is to die by your side. Holy shit, guys. How he fights so hard to get over to Haku, and Kakashi even helps him at the end. And just the very gentle way that he touches Haku's face, and him saying that basically he just realized it too late, that all he wanted was to be by Haku's side, and now it's too late because they won't go to the same place. And everyone is like, it's okay, you guys can go to ninja heaven together. And I know that's like making fun of something that is actually very poignant and beautiful, but I just think that to give these two antagonists a death that is so soft and tender is like galaxy brain, I really love Haku. He's one of my favorite characters, and I love this kind of trope. I love their relationship and how it all ends up, and I just think they get a really great death scene, and it's just amazing. And I hope that something in the future Naruto can like come close to the sheer perfection of that scene for me, but I don't know if anything else will. I still love it though. Number 4 is Julio from Kirakira Pre-Cure Mode. And look, I know he doesn't actually die, but I watched this as it was coming out, which is not my usual experience with anime. And I was pretty much convinced that he was just not going to come back. He was just going to be in a magic coma forever. And I'm glad that they did not do that, because if they had done that, I would have flown to Japan and burned Toei Studios to the ground. I love Julio, and I hate Shiel so much. I cannot describe it. My entire relationship with Shiel is the Lion, the Witch, and the audacity of this bitch. Like, that's it. The fact that she ruins his life without even realizing it, and when she apologizes to him, she also makes the apology all about her, and he hasn't even forgiven her yet, and he takes a spear through the chest to protect her. This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I hate this so much. And you might be like, Lano, why is it on a list of your top 10 anime deaths then? Well, because anything that makes me feel a strong emotion is good. I like stuff like that. So even though this fills me with pure unbridled rage, it still gets to be here. It still gets to be here because of that. Because it made me so angry. I watched this. When did this come out? I think this came out from like 2017 to 2018, maybe. And I'm still furious about this. Shiel is so... I want to strangle her. I want to strangle her. She does not have the emotional qualities to be a Precure. And anyway, I want to do an entire video about this show because I'm obsessed with it. Like, this show and the live action Sailor Moon, the best magical girl shows ever made, hands down. Like, that's it. That's it. Do not question me. This is final. Kirakira Precure a la Mode is so good. And it's so good wrapped up in this very, like, silly packaging. But everything about it is amazing, and Julio is great. And this scene, like, oh man, this made me so mad at the time. It was really funny. I also watched this with one of my roommates, and we were just yelling, like, we were screaming every week, every episode. Our other roommates would just be like, ah, shit, there they go again, as we were just, like, yelling at the top of our lungs. And this was one of those moments. So it definitely is effective as a character death, and I'm very, 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 very glad that he got brought back to life, because yeah, we would have had some strong words if that had been his final scene. I love you, Julio. I love you so much. I really want to talk about the show in greater depth, and it's very hard for me to, like, physically restrain myself from just going on a rant about it right now. So we are moving on. Number 3 is Mitty from Maiden Abyss. Like Banana Fish, Maiden Abyss is a messed up show. And because of that, nothing in it affected me. I basically didn't have any kind of reaction to it. Although I enjoyed it, I think it's good. But somehow, in the last, like, 3 episodes, they have the audacity to bring in this weird little slug creature and make me care about her so much that I cried when she died. How dare they? Mitty! Oh man! So, like, showing us, you know, who she used to be and how she ended up being this way. And then her little friend, God, I cannot remember their names. We watched this like 2 months ago, and I forget. But her friend asking Reg to kill Mitty because his cannon is the only thing powerful enough to do it. And they build the little platform with all of the stuffed animals, the little, like, going away platform, and they're gonna do it, and she's like, no, wait, and she runs over and gives Mitty one last hug, and then, like, turns around and is like, okay, and he just obliterates her. He obliterates Mitty. She's just gone. And then, you know, afterwards, the main character girl, whose name I can't remember, wakes up and reveals that she was somehow communing with Mitty while she was in a coma, and she knows that the girl that she was talking to or vibing with was happy when she left, so Mitty was happy when she died. Like, oh my god, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe that they managed to do this to me in 3 episodes. This is the worst. Mitty. I'm so sad about Mitty, you guys. My roommate and I that watched this together, this kind of became a joke for a little bit. Like, I can't believe Mitty fucking died, but we were both really upset about it in a good way, you know. This was the most effective thing in this show in the first season, and I cannot wait to get, like, there's the movie, and then I guess it's season 2 coming. I don't really know exactly how that's working, but I can't wait to get back into it and continue on in the story. But, like, this is peak. Mitty's death is, like, the most emotional thing that's ever going to happen in that show. I guarantee it. Number 2 is Dio and Luciola from Last Exile. This show, I watched this when I was in high school. This has been haunting me for over a decade. My friend at the time told me that Dio doesn't actually die because he's in season 2, and just like Code Geass, I own season 2, and I have for quite some time, and I have never watched it. So that could be the case, but as far as I'm concerned, Dio and Luciola are both dead. And this is just horrible. So, like, Luciola gives up his life so that Dio and Klaus and Alvis, is that her name? The little girl, can escape. But Dio's not lucid anymore. He's crazy. Maestro Delphine made him go crazy. And so he thinks that they're in the race that they were in earlier in the show. And he starts repeating all of his same behaviors. and lines. And one of the things that he said during that race when he was frustrated was that Luciola should jump out of the ship because his weight was slowing them down. And he says this again. And when they cross the finish line, or what he believes is the finish line, he turns around and Luciola isn't there. And he thinks that Luciola actually jumped out of the ship because that's what he said. He crawls out of the cockpit and then the whole ship just like plummets and we do not see him again. So like, yeah, they don't show us a body, but that's pretty like, I don't know. However he survived that is a miracle. But just the idea that Luciola gave up his life for someone who died like half an hour later because of his absence is horrible. I'm so emotional about them. These two are, they really kind of make the show for me. The reason that they get to be higher than Mitty, even though I don't think I cried about this, and I did about Mitty, is because they're main characters. Like, you get to know them, you get to see all their character growth and how they go from being antagonists to being friends. And like, the birthday party that they hold for Dio, and he's so happy and he's like never had anything like that in his life. It's all so emotional, and they're such good friends even though they're not supposed to be, because Luciola is just supposed to be like a servant. And then it all accumulates like that. Like Luciola giving up his life for Dio, and then Dio plummeting out of the sky in an airplane accident because Luciola is missing. Just, oh, it's beautiful. It's horrible. Over a decade, you guys. Over a decade I've been upset about this. Amazing. Number one, probably predictably, because I'm sure this shows up on a lot of similar lists, is Kamina from Gurren Lagann. And he's kind of a special case because, like Rengoku, he's one of those heroic, larger-than-life figures. And I wasn't exactly sad about his death necessarily, although I liked Kamina. We all like Kamina. And I was not expecting him to die at that point in time because I watched this long ago and things were different then. The thing that makes Kamina's death the most effective death in anime is that the show spends 4 episodes dealing with the aftermath of it. And I cried. The first time I watched this, I legitimately cried for the next 4 episodes. I did not stop crying until after this arc was over with. It was exhausting, let me tell you that. But just, anime doesn't usually deal with grief a lot. They usually don't have time to, especially when you watch a lot of shonen stuff, which I do like shonen anime. They just don't usually deal with it, And so the fact that this was part of the story, and so they actually took so many episodes to show the hole that was in people's lives and hearts without Kamina there. The effect that his death had on everybody, but especially Simone, who just fell into this pit of despair and apathy and was so dead to the world that he could not notice that the other characters were trying to reach him desperately, trying to get their emotions across to him. And he just, he was frozen and could not move forward. Oh my gosh. The waterworks were running. I think it's extremely effective. I wish more anime had time to explore the loss of characters to this extent, because this is just amazing, the fact that they were able to do this. And then, they went on to go make Studio Trigger and continue to make just amazing things. Almost everything they produce is phenomenal. So, it started here, and it was a good place to start. You knew they were going to go on and do something great, because this was just fantastic. And I still get a little teary-eyed when I get there. It's hard. It's hard to watch Simone suffering so much. It is depressing, So that is my list. It was kind of hard. I made some last-minute adjustments here and there as I was going through. So there were some honorable mentions. Iskandar from Fate Zero almost made it on here, but the thing is, I really like his relationship with Waver, and so the thing I like about his death is actually Waver's conversation with Gilgamesh afterwards, about loyalty and stuff. So, I don't know if that really counts. And then, yeah, I can't read this one. Whatever. His was the one that was almost number 10, and I only just replaced it at the last minute with Aaron's death, so I figured I may as well mention him. That's my death list. I think I made it through without crying this time. Almost crying. Whatever. It's good. Yeah, this is fun. I really enjoy talking about anime. I really like anime a lot, and I would love to talk about several of these shows in greater depth at some point. I definitely will do one about Kirakira because it's so good. I may also make one about Prince Freya, or at the very least, like Prince Freya and other things that are similar to it, because there's not a lot of anime that fits that bill, and I'm a fan of it every single time. But for now, this is where I'm wrapping up. Hopefully, I had some fun making this as my birthday present to myself. What a present. Let's just talk about stuff that made me cry for half an hour. But hopefully you guys could all have some fun listening to it. Do you agree or not? That's fine. I would be interested if there are any other good deaths that you guys have that I didn't put on here. So if you have something to let me know, feel free to do so. Otherwise, this is Lano signing off. Thank you for listening.